understand about conflict resolution or management if this is a new topic for them?
Oh my gosh, conflict is so healthy.
Healthy.
Conflict is so
Healthy.
healthy
Wow.
because if you have the courage to have the conversation, you can resolve the issue immediately. And it's interesting that studying conflict for many years, men typically do it better than women.
Mm.
Studies have shown that sometimes when men have disagreements, they kind of nip it in the bud, they talk about it, they're done with it.
Move on.
A woman, you have a conflict, they may resolve it, but they remember what happened 7 years ago.
But they
So
don't
we're a
move
little
on.
bit different. We're a little bit different than we move on, but we're like elephants. We don't forget. And
Oh.
so in that way, we're a little bit different. But conflict is very healthy. That's what I would say. Because it requires communications and sometimes it results in growth. I can reflect professionally on times I had a boss who was, kind of different. We didn't see things eye to eye. She was a visionary. I was just nail, dot the I's. And so we differed. But it was interesting in that relationship, we learned by communications to feed off each other's strengths. And it got to the point where we would actually visit each other's offices and say, I'm looking at it from this way. Share with me how you feel about this. And so it was an interesting thing. And even personally, I may have shared with you, I play golf, I enjoy golf. And so I played with this new person once who, yeah. And I never played with her before. And golf, you have etiquette. You have etiquette, that's what you do. So we played the, first hole teed off. And so she tells me, she says, well, take the golf cart and drive ahead. And I said, sure. I drove around to the first hole. And then when I got there, she just started yelling, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me? And I was like, and I was so confused. And of course, I was put off by her tone. And the other two people we were playing with, they recognized it, of course, too, because it's just strange. So when the woman and I got back into the golf cart, I said, hey, I really didn't feel respected at that moment, in that moment. I don't understand why you raised your voice. Um, and she explained, she goes, oh, I thought you understood. I wanted you to stay. And I said, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. And so we talked about that. We cleared the air, and I laugh about it as a good example because I was actually practicing what I preach all the time: communicate, communicate. We later, when we finished playing golf, we all went to a Mexican restaurant. She sat beside me, and we had a ball. So that's why I say conflict can be very healthy. But just let me say one more thing.
Absolutely.
It's important with conflict, understanding your conflict style.
Say more, please.
And I give assessments, and I'm certified and trained to give assessments to people. So you can identify what is your conflict style. Am I a head on person? If somebody's confronting me, I'm going to confront, very confrontational. I'm coming right back at them. Or if someone hits me with conflict, am I very passive and I'm just not going to say anything? Or do I have a conflict style where I try to compromise and negotiate? So there are different types of conflict. But the interesting thing about conflict is that people, even before I give the assessments, they usually have a general idea of how they respond in conflict. And it's interesting when conflict occurs, that's really when you see people's true character, that kind of.
I like that. I like that. First of all, I love all the points that you mentioned. I love that you said conflict is healthy. And I heard you say it can lead to growth and our true selves come out a little bit more in the heat of the moment in conflict. So, what would you say to folks that are more conflict adverse?
To find the courage deep down within. It's interesting with conflict. I mentioned that we all have a core conflict style, but that may change. For example, I may be very passive if I'm in a shopping center and I'm driving and someone slips in and takes my parking space. Well, no big deal. But that confrontational part of me could come out, like if it involves a member of my family who's been harmed, like Mama Bear coming out. It's like, whoa, hold up. And so it shifts. So we have that ability to shift our confrontational, you know, style or conflict style. For the ones that are conflict avoidant, I can say that the problem will not go away. The problem will not go. And that's usually how conflict avoiders think, particularly in the workplace. They're like, well, I have an employee who is not performing, and so they'll get better. I'm sure they'll get better, you know. And so the employees making mistakes after mistakes, and then finally, you know, maybe leadership hears something about it, then the pressure's on for them to have a conversation with that employee. And that's where I come in. With Lions HR Consulting, you know, I can coach and give individuals the tools to help and have that conversation. And I've actually done that. I've met with leaders and I've kind of coached them on steps to take when they meet with employees.